Okay, Josh.
I'd like to call the full Ansonia Board of Aldermen meeting for November 15th, 2022 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for
for
which it
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Aldermen and women. King. Stowe. Adamowski.
Here.
Tar.
Here.
Cassetti.
Here.
Janetti.
Here.
Not. Yauman.
Here.
Rivers.
Here.
Mamone.
Here.
Stewart.
Here,
Blackwell. DeLibero. I have 8 present.
I declare a quorum. So we have a set of minutes for approval, to consider for approval, the October 11th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
So move. Second.
Motion by Cassetti, second by Yauman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. Public session will open up. Just a quick reminder, if you do choose to speak, please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Please identify yourself, name and your address for the public record. And as best as we can, we'll address anything, but this isn't a Q&A. It's your opportunity to speak as citizens. So is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak tonight to the Board of Aldermen? Second call, anyone from the public? Third and final call, public session. Seeing none, we'll close the public session, move on to public official session. Mayor Cassetti.
Yes, President Stewart, members of the Board of Aldermen and residents of the great city of Ansonia. Tonight, with Thanksgiving right around the corner, I'm excited to share with you all what I am thankful for. First and foremost, I want to thank you and all the work you all do for the residents of this great city. And that includes the volunteer work that you'll be doing this Saturday at Nolan Field starting at noon. That's right, you'll be helping to give away Thanksgiving turkeys in partnership with Bridgeport Rescue Mission and the Abundant Life Fellowship to help families in need. And if you know any of those families, they can register for turkeys through my office by using the information available on our Facebook page right now. Please donate some of your time to help give out those turkeys. Now, I am also thankful for the winning season our Ansonia Chargers have been putting together so far and looking forward to our big Thanksgiving game with Naugatuck. It's all thanks to our amazing players and coaches, including Coach Brockett. I think I might even be related to someone on this year's team, but he asked me not to mention it. Finally, I am thankful for our wonderful residents who have supported our efforts to recharge our city. This coming year will be the 10th anniversary of Ansonia Recharged, and we have some amazing progress on track, including major steps towards the revitalization of Copper and Brass, the redevelopment of Olson Drive as a sports complex, continued progress on new apartments and commercial activity on Main Street, and with the blighted Farrell Processing Lab, and the completion of our new splash pad, work towards a new community center at the Armory, continued efforts to restore the Ansonia Opera House, the opening of our new senior center, and much more. I'll have more updates on our city's continued progress over the next month. Until then, enjoy the beginning of the great holiday season. Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless the city of Ansonia.
Thanks, Mayor. And just a reminder, he mentioned in his speech there, this Saturday is the Thanksgiving project, Saturday 12 to 2 at Nolan Field for anyone that's available. Next up, Corporation Counsel, John Marini.
Thanks, Mr. President, members of the board. First, I want to give an update on SHW and Copper and Brass, specifically as it relates to demolition. As some of you know on the board, especially those on the Fire Commission, there was a roof collapse about 2 weeks ago at SHW. This is the portion of the factories downtown that the city already owns, that sliver of property right across from Eagle House. So there was an internal roof collapse within that facility at what's known as Building 11. Immediately following the fire department's report, an investigation of that collapse, we sent our city engineer out to do a structural investigation. And he returned with a written opinion that that building is structurally unstable and must be demolished. We put a demo order out immediately. We worked with our demolition vendor to mobilize, but unfortunately, we ran into an issue with UI. And I want to tell you where things stand with United Illuminating. First, United Illuminating was unfortunately not responsive to our requests in that we needed UI to come to the site to cut the wires before demolition on that facility takes place. It's important to know that the wires need to be cut not at SHW, but at 1 West Main Street. And as you know, 1 West Main Street is part of the overall complex, but is located in an area that's far less contaminated. In fact, an area adjacent to where RugPad was operating. The issue is that the city had difficulty getting UI to respond. We did in fact tell UI, left a message with them directly that if they did not respond, we would enter the property and cut the wires ourselves. That did get us a call back from UI. Things seem to be progressing rapidly. There was a plan put in place to cut the overhead wires, but once again, things have slowed down. They're citing their legal department. We are going to meet UI at the site tomorrow to determine how to move forward quickly. We're very concerned about a potential further collapse, especially with the wind and cold weather that may bring snow. And I'm particularly worried about the SHW facility abutting the roadway and how a potential collapse could impact travelers on the road, either on the sidewalk or the street. That being said, I want to give you this update. If we could work with UI to get these wires cut and a plan to do this week, we will proceed together. If not, I will bring an action in court against UI, looking for an injunction that is a court order allowing us to cut the wires or else ordering UI to cut the wires. This is an emergency situation. We really cannot have red tape get in the way of a situation where lives could be in danger. So I really want to make sure this board understands where we are with that particular element of the situation. Other than the situation at SHW, there is the larger situation at Copper and Brass. As you know, we are foreclosing on the property. That's 60 acres of empty factory space downtown. The foreclosures are proceeding perhaps a little slower than expected, given that the court wants separate law dates for every single defendant, every every party basically connected with an ownership interest in the site. And I should point out that there is no defense of this foreclosure. No one is appearing to defend any of the defendants. No argument is being made. However, the court wants to be extra careful to make sure basically every defendant gets their day in court, gets a date scheduled. He's being ultra fair here. And at the end of the day, we foresee this property transferring to the city end of this year, very early next year at the latest. But essentially, the court needs to schedule these hearings and we will move forward. After my piece, I'm happy to take any questions about Copper and Brass or SHW. I also want to give the board an update about Scenic View because it's come to your attention several times. A group of residents was complaining about revving engine sounds coming from one of the properties, and it did appear that there was an operation, basically almost a chop shop type operation or a tuning operation activity taking place in the front yard of this property. That's kind of out of a Fast and the Furious movie, with race cars being tuned up for racing, causing large amount of noise and disruption in the neighborhood. This matter was brought into blight. Violations were assessed, and an appeal was filed. And I'm happy to report that we did conduct, and I represented the city at a blight appeals hearing, and we were successful. We did prevail. The hearing officer sided with the city, and a $400 per day fine is now being assessed against the property owner. This will be converted to a lien on the property, and if the complaint of activity does not stop, we will execute on the lien once it grows to sufficient size to collect on. So again, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer it. But right now, the situation is that there is a lien on the property, and we will be looking to enforce if the complaint of activity does not stop. I want to give you an update on the Opera House, as that's always been a good topic of interest and conversation here. As you know, an Opera House committee has been meeting, and it's been the city's goal to find funding to start the needed renovations on the Opera House as per our agreement with the owner. We've recently met with the executive director of the Main Street Center, which is an organization that is involved with a variety of different Main Street related initiatives in the state of Connecticut, and they've expressed a big interest partnering with us on targeting funding opportunities for the Opera House. So likely more information to come, but we are actively looking for funding sources to start making a difference on this site. Previously, we had talked about starting with the exterior, and that's likely still the plan, but it looks like there's good news on the horizon. And finally, completely non-legally related or development related, I can say we're going to have a very early announcement about Rock the Valley 2023. We already have secured a lineup for the event. I can't give you any spoilers yet. We're likely going to announce within the month, but I can say that this will be the loudest Rock the Valley thus far in the event's history. And I want to thank Rich DiCarlo for his help as we work together to secure, I think, some great musical acts that will appeal to our Valley residents. And so that's it for my update. I know we have some issues later in the agenda to talk about, but if you have any questions about what I've just updated you on, I'd be happy to talk about it now.
Any questions for Attorney Marini from the Alderman? Yeah, Alderman Cassetti, go ahead.
Hi, John. John, this new interested party for Main Street and the Opera House. I know that we were talking about making the front look better, changing the windows, and making it look a little bit more appealing on Main Street, which is probably a good idea. But I just was wondering, has there been any thought put into the plumbing or electrical part of working on the property that way?
Well, I think that ultimately it would be great if we had the funding to do a complete overhaul, but I think we're still in the early stages of determining what the funding source will be and what those funds will be eligible for. Obviously, doing the plumbing is likely a later stage because we're really in a situation where we can't really invite the public into the building in a normal sense, right? We can conduct very limited investigations. The group, Anthony Mullen and the rest of the group have been great at putting together some ideas for photography tours, but public interaction with this site has to be very limited. And so a big investment like into the plumbing or into the infrastructure, it's likely too early to really invest that kind of money. I think, again, we're really looking at the exterior and probably looking towards getting a design plan for the site that could be funded in a later stage. And Sheila may have a little bit to add as well.
Yeah, no, what I wanted to say was, Joe, that's a good question. And I think, we're going to continue to pursue the needs assessment study for the Opera House. I'm working on the application. We're going to submit that. That will then tell us, look at the outside, look at the plumbing, look at the electrical, elevator, etc. So it'll give us a good blueprint of where we want to go next. We were fortunate enough to have Main Street reach out to us and say, we'd like to help and we perhaps could bring some money to the table. So we'll pursue that and see where that brings us.
Well, we've got a couple of events that we're looking to get off the ground. And we do see the possibility of making some money to support any ideas that might trigger, get some work done at the place. But I think we need input from the owners. It's a large conglomerate of owners that owns it now. If they could match what we make for events that we raise, I think that would be an important thing to try and get going. And then, of course, if Main Street has an idea how much they'd like to invest in it, perhaps a matched amount would be just fine to start everything going. All right, I just wanted to bring that up and see how far we go with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Attorney Marini from the Alderman?
I question, maybe a comment, John, with regards to UI and their lack of responsiveness to our inquiries. It seems like time and time again. Is there, in this particular circumstance, when we're dealing with an emergency, and I know you said that you would be moving forward with an injunctive relief if necessary, but isn't there state oversights and state regulatory bodies that have oversight that we should be filing complaints with as well, writing letters to? And then just, overall, their just lack of response to municipal issues is seriously problematic and puts us in a position where we essentially have to either do it ourselves or we have to just beg them over a course of several years to get things done. We have half telephone poles up and down Wakely Avenue. It's disgusting. So, I guess my question is that when you guys are meeting with them, and I understand it's a very specific emergency situation, but I think that either requesting a point person, a line of contact that can and will be responsive to the city of Ansonia, and or just letting them know that we're going to make our complaints known publicly to the oversight authorities in the AG's office.
DPUC.
And I'd say, Alderman Yalman, you make a good point. And this, this right here tonight, this is the tipping point, because generally we don't go on to public meetings and talk about these things, talk about our frustration publicly. But at this point, you're right. There's been a series of things, and this is really it. This is really crossing the line. We have an emergency situation. We do have a contact assigned to us with the UI, but number one has not been very responsive. And number two, even when they're responsive, we cannot get what I believe is a simple result, and that is a disconnect of the lines in a very needed situation, an emergency situation. So, us talking about it publicly here tonight and talking about it with our other allies in the state, that is happening now. And it had to happen because unfortunately, we can't be in a situation where we get put in jeopardy, putting resident safety in jeopardy simply because we can't have a common sense action plan on something.
And absolutely, John, I couldn't agree more with you. And I think that in this particular the tipping point is the emergency situation. But there are problems and cosmetic things that we're waiting 3, 4, maybe 5 years to get dealt with. It's just nonsense.
That's right. That's right. We unfortunately had another situation with studying polls for our camera system, which is something I'll have more of an update on next month. But we are looking, of course, at our surveillance system for the lower wards, and UI had to be part of that, and a sluggish response. And I understand they have a captive market, but that's not fair to the residents. That's not fair to the community. We got to work as partners together. And of course, we're always open to working together with our allies, but we do need results. We don't have unlimited time to be making progress on these things.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate the hard work, John.
Any other questions for Corporation Counsel from the Alderman? All right, thank you. Next up, Economic Development Director, Sheila O'Malley.
Yep, thank you, President Stewart, members of the Board of Aldermen and women. So people, we get a lot of grants and people want to know, how do we get this money, right? And I have said this before and I'll say it again tonight. It's really because of the Board of Aldermen. You've given us the keys and the opportunity to move the funds forward, or to move funds towards our projects, because you've allowed us to move forward with the ownership of, for instance, SHW, and to go forward with the foreclosure of Ansonia Copper and Brass. So without that step, I can't get grants for these projects. So appreciate your help and support, and of course, the mayor's vision. And it's because of, we moved forward with a master development plan for Ansonia Copper and Brass. And what that plan essentially said was, yes, do you need demolition? Of course you need demolition, but you need to, I don't know, someone's not muted, but anyway, so you need access to the site. It's critical to get access. And we just recently got a $6.5 million grant to replace or renovate the bridge that comes off of Riverside Drive. It's the only safe truck access way into the site. So that's going to be a total renovation or replacement. And we're, very grateful for the $6.5 million. I'm not going to go through all the grants, but we do have 3 outstanding grants coming up. I anticipate having some good news to announce to you guys at the next meeting, hopefully. Wanted to update you a little bit on the senior center. Everyone's asking about the tiling in the ceiling is all completed. They've installed electrical units on the exterior of the building. There's a large piece of equipment out there. If you drove by today, installing units, HVAC units, etc. The doors are being hung, and then the rest of the tile and the floors are being put in. The kitchen equipment and all of the fixtures and lighting is now on permanent electrical. That electrical panel that no one wants to hear about, that we're still waiting on, is due to come in on the 28th. And that actually just controls our, well, not just, but it controls the HVAC in the building. So we'll get that installed as soon as it's in, and hopefully get the seniors in very shortly. The garage repairs, there were some very slight improvements that were made so that PD can park their car on the first level, get the cars in there. It's actually snowing out right now, but get the cars in there for the winter. And then in the springtime, Capasso will come back and complete the entire renovations. They would have to winterize or weatherize the upgrades if they did them now. So they'll be back in the spring to complete that. As John says, he's working hard at getting UI to budge a little on the electrical so we can get that demolition complete. And I'm excited to get some of those buildings down and pave the way for an access road and new site pads into SHW. I guess that's about it for now.
Any questions from the alderman for Sheila tonight?
Yes, sir.
Cassetti.
Alderman Cassetti.
Yes, hi Sheila.
Hi, Alderman Cassetti.
You mentioned about the police having the ability to park indoors, and that'd be great. But for a long time, the firemen have been neglected, and when the city police have, I guess, started using the basement there, or the first floor, whatever you want to call it, can that open up to, can the area that's being used by the police in front now, can that be opened up for the firemen? They've been looking.
Yeah, I don't know about apparatus because I don't know what the ceiling height is, but yes, well, Chief is here. He can answer better if how that works.
I think Joe's specifically speaking about those spaces that were on the side of the building for
Parking.
for parking that
Okay.
became police only parking. Or will those be back online
For
now that they're inside? correct, Joe?
I would think, Chief, that's gonna free up some space
Yeah,
out
so
front.
our plan for the winter is to move the cruisers and staff vehicles into that lower garage. Yes, that will free up the East Main Street parking if that's what you're referring to.
Hi, Chief. Yeah, that's basically what I was trying to,
Yeah, it'll free that up. Public Works would just have to make sure they plow it if there's any kind of bad weather, because we wouldn't be using that at all. The
All right.
only spaces that we would probably still use are the couple of spaces right behind the East Main Street doors.
Right.
Until we get the garage on the first floor set and we can use the Sally port, we still will have to bring prisoners in through that back door. But I wouldn't have any issues with them using that parking up along the back wall, if that's what you're talking about.
yeah, and we might want to change some of the signage where it says, police parking only.
We're gonna take the police signage down because I think most of those signs say like vehicle 1, vehicle 2, etc. We're gonna be taking those down and putting them in the lower garage for the winter. The only thing is I will say is eventually we have to go back up there
Yeah,
and take over those spaces again, because once they start doing any work on the garage, we can't have anybody on either level.
all right, so noted. I'd just like to be able to tell the firemen that, we've got something in the not too far distant future.
Yeah, it's really coming down to access to that lower garage. We've met with, I was gonna talk about it later, but I could do it right now. We were talking about, we met with AST, which is the company that has the controls for the garage doors. And when the building was built, there was no mechanism for opening that garage door off of the main parking lot from the outside. The only people that can do it is a dispatcher could push a button. So we met with them today with Tenor Construction also, and we've come up with a plan that's a low cost plan to install basically like what you would see on the highway for like I forget what you call it, for like the tolls now. It's just that automatic, it's like an RFID reader. So all the cars would have a card in them and it would read it and open the door automatically.
Okay.
So it's just going to be a matter of how long it takes for them to be able to install that, but they're working on it as of today.
All right, sounds good, Chief. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll keep the fire department in the loop, and once we're out of there, I'll let them know.
Thank you. And if you need the space back, let us know and we can work with you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, just like I said, once the springtime comes and they're ready to ramp up the garage, then we'll just pull everything out, go back up there. And then when they're done with the garage, then it'll be a permanent thing. We won't be up there.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Chief.
Sheila, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's
Josh,
okay.
can I ask a question to Sheila, please?
Go ahead.
So Sheila, this is back to the American Brass Company. And
Yes,
I'm just trying to connect the dots from some of your previous reports on this matter, right? So, my understanding is nothing will occur until the foreclosure is complete. Is that correct?
yes, because currently we don't have title. I mean, we
And-
have funding, a lot of funding being held on to and ready to go as soon as we own it.
And so my understanding is from your previous reports that once that foreclosure is finalized, the first step needs to be the construction or reconstruction of the bridge so that you can get access to the site and get stuff out of there, get
Trucks.
debris
Yep.
out of there. So based upon the available state funding, what would be the next step? What would follow the establishment or construction of the bridge?
So I think the next step is demolition to clear, John doesn't want me to talk about this, but to clear the smokestacks and clear that electrical power plant that's mothballed right now, but it's right as you get off the bridge, it's right there. And get rid of that, clear an area and get demolition going on that site. It's hard not to talk about SHW when you talk about Ansonia
Mhm.
Copper and Brass, because what we envision is an access road into SHW that'll also, open up Ansonia Copper and Brass, just more difficult to access the site from from Main Street or North Main Street.
And does the city have flexibility with the state funding in terms of what it chooses to demolish first, or is that focused and specific on a certain aspect of the site?
That's a good question. I mean, we have to deal with SHPO, which is the State Historic Preservation Office, and it's a bit of a back and forth as to what we can demolish and what they want saved. And sometimes it's a horse trading type situation, but that does, hate to say, it does slow us down.
Okay. So this is great. I appreciate the response. I know this is a long time coming and lots of effort and work. We'll look forward to seeing some, tangible changes in the site in this next year.
Absolutely. Yep. You will at SHW.
Thank you.
Beginning there. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Can we take a moment to appreciate Joe Cassetti's floating head for a minute? How awesome that is.
Woo.
It's incredible. Any other questions for economic development tonight from the Alderman? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, Chief Fiscal Officer Kurt Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to all the board members and others in attendance. A few quick updates on the finance side. The fiscal year 24 budget process is underway. I've been in contact with several department heads as they are working to create their draft budgets, which are due for Monday, December 5th. They'll also be making their capital requests at that point too. I'll then spend the months of December and January meeting with the different department heads, reviewing their submissions and discussing their capital needs to build an overall comprehensive capital plan. As stated last month, my expectation is for Mayor Cassetti to present his budget to a joint meeting of the Aldermen vote on Monday, April 3rd. That's the target date. But again, with a relatively new legislature, I believe there was 47 positions that changed over, if I'm not mistaken, and a new administration for the governor. We're not 100% sure yet when we're going to get solid numbers from the state, with a large portion of our funding coming from the state of Connecticut. I think it would be prudent to wait to see exactly what the state of Connecticut's going to do before we move forward too quickly. The fiscal year 22 audit is ongoing. The auditors have been in for several days and most of the testing has been completed. I've had several conversations with John Acavella, our auditor, offline, and he seems extremely pleased with where the city stands, our processes and procedures. He seems very happy with. And he also says that, we're headed in the right direction, even though some articles may point to the contrary. John is extremely happy with the direction the city is heading. So on a side note, Rich and Kim have been spending a lot of time assisting with the Board of Education. They're down a few staff members due to illness. So Rich and Kim have been digging in to try to help them move along. We're still targeting a December 31st completion. But again, I just want to caution that we may need to push that into January because of the Board of Ed being a little bit behind because of those illnesses. But, the thing that I think is really coming out of this is the teamwork between the two finance staffs, Board of Education and the city side. They're working very well together, passing information back and forth, sharing information, and very much working collaboratively. So I think that is, kudos to Dr. Tabacco and to Mayor Cassetti for establishing that type of working relationship between the two staffs. It certainly makes the city substantially stronger on the financial end of things. So we're in the beginning stages of adding a cloud-based virtual vault to allow us to move away from paper files to a virtual setup. Richie and I have met with a vendor that we are very comfortable with that has done existing business with the city. Our goal is to begin that process in early January after the completion of the audit. We anticipate it's going to take about 6 to 9 months to get everything up and running. And we're going to start with personnel files, existing employees and retirees. getting all of that uploaded, and then we're going to start to work through other documents to build this file, which we think is going to be very beneficial to the city going forward. Excuse me. On the DPW side, we've entered into agreement with our new weather service to provide us the most up-to-date information to be prepared as possible for the snow season, which oddly enough has kicked off in the last 15 or 20 minutes. Along those lines, we are putting in the final touches on our snow prep, and we'll be ready to go for the first snowstorm of the year. So the nice thing about this new software that we have, it allows myself, Sean, Mike, Lou, our mechanic, to be able to track specifically what's going on with the weather. And I think it just gives us an advantage with bringing our staff in and out. So we're not wasting funds having our staff sit around, but at the same time, you know, it gives us a good opportunity to make sure that we're out pre-treating the roads and doing all the things that we need to do to make sure that our residents are safe and able to travel around the city without any problems. Excuse me. As discussed last month, we're in the process of GPSing our DPW fleet. The new system will allow us to have a much better understanding of our rolling fleet, which will provide long-term benefits for maintenance, driver safety, and most importantly, residential response. In addition to the GPS units, all of our plow trucks will also have front-facing cameras, which will be of great value moving forward. So that's something that we're actually very excited about and will certainly be a great asset. Finally, we're in the process of updating policies and procedures for the transfer station. Talked a little bit about that last month. I know this is something that this board had asked for and approved a while back prior to me switching over to help out in Public Works temporarily. We have a new updated fee structure, which will be going in place for January 1st. I know that's something that you folks had voted on and pushed for. So we will be putting that in place for January 1st. We're going to have some signs created, and we're going to use the month of December to alert the residents to the changes and to let them know what's going on. So with that, I'll entertain any questions any of you may have with regards to finance or Public Works.
Any questions for Marcia tonight?
Yeah, I'm incognito tonight, so.
Hey, Kurt, it's Tony. I got a question. So is there any possibility for like any long-term synergies with the finance groups between the city and the Board of Ed?
You know, oddly enough, that's something that Richie and Kim and I talk about all the time. I definitely think that there is. I think there's a lot of great opportunities for synergy between the city and the Board of Ed in finance and technology, operations. You know, we do share things back and forth, which is great. I mean, as an example, SROs are provided to the schools that the city pays for. We're trying to provide some additional library services. Our children's librarian has been spending a lot of time in the schools. But I do think, to answer your point, Tony, that there is a big opportunity in some key areas which would really benefit the town, or excuse me, the city. Maybe not necessarily in savings of dollars, but I think just efficiency and effectiveness would certainly go a long way in bringing some of these functions together.
Yeah, but I think a fast follower behind the efficiency is, you know, the cost savings. So I think those kind of work hand in hand. So, you know, that's positive to hear, and you know, kudos to Rich and Kim for helping out.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of work over the last couple of weeks. It's definitely appreciated.
Any other questions from the Alderman for Mr. Miller? All right, let's move on to Police Chief Wayne Williams.
Good evening, President and members of the board. First, Mr. Miller, I've used a lot of aliases over the years in police work. I can't say I ever used one that creative.
Thank you. I'm under deep cover right now. Deep cover.
Just a quick personnel update. Finally, some good news. We have a couple of officers and a dispatcher that are out on extended leave. Two of our officers graduated the New Britain Training Academy, and they are currently in field training now. That goes on for about 13 weeks. We have an officer in the Meriden Academy, 2 officers in the Bridgeport Academy, 1 officer in the Waterbury Academy, and 4 officers expected to enter the New Britain Academy on December 2nd. At this time, that means that we have no openings that we need to backfill. So that is the first time in a long time that we will not have to be hiring anybody. Police
Chief,
vehicles,
hold on, Chief. Virtually, it's hard to, give you an applause, but, I'm going to applaud all your efforts to reach full complement and to, fill those roles. So congrats to you and the department for doing that.
yeah, I will be glad to take all the credit, but I will give Lieutenant Froelich has we put a task in front of him that was quite a task, because at the time there were about 11 openings, and he was able to get them staffed. So it was a very good joint effort.
Heck of a job to all involved.
Yeah, so on vehicles, we have 2 new cruisers that are built, and we should be taking possession of those this week. I think there's just some paperwork that needs to be completed, financing those, because we are leasing the vehicles on a 2-year lease, and then we own them. One of our Detective Bureau vehicles is out of commission. It's not going to be worth fixing. It's at least 15 years old. I'll get a letter to your board next month to get approval to destroy it. Contract negotiations are ongoing with the police union. We are setting up some additional dates. We already spoke about the garage, so I won't give you any other updates on that. As part of the police accountability bill, we were required to do mental health wellness checks for 20% of our agency. Those were done last month, and there were no issues. So we are in compliance with that section. A couple of events took place, just so you're aware. We did have 2 weeks ago, we had a burglary at Fuel First where somebody broke through the front window. We were able to locate 2 suspects. The vehicle has been identified, and the suspects have been identified, and I expect arrests in that case shortly. We are still working on our accreditation path with as part of the accountability bill. We have an Tier 1 inspection date, which is the first tier, on July 20th. So we're working towards that goal of getting there. Halloween, no major issues. And I wanted to remind people about our Thanksgiving Stuff a Jeep, which will be taking place on the 18th from noon to 5 at Stop and Shop. This is a joint effort with the Ansonia Police Department and Fitzpatrick's Jeep. We'll be down there collecting food, and then now that food is then donated to the local food pantries. So that'll be taking place on the 18th. We'll have another one in December around the Christmas holiday. Sheila, I wanted to thank for some help on some grants. I just wanted to make you aware that we applied for. We've been talking about the police accountability bill and some of the unfunded mandates. I was working with the state OPM on getting some money reimbursed for our body worn cameras that we were required to have. And we just got, it looks like will be approved, but it won't go until the bond meeting in the spring. That's when the approval will take place. But the Ansonia should be receiving about $71,000 from the reimbursement. So we just completed that and sent it in. We also been approved for a speed enforcement grant and a stolen vehicle violent crime grant. Those should be all set beginning in December. And lastly, again, with Sheila helping me, we received a bulletproof vest grant for about $15,000. That covers a 50% match for any new and replacement vests that we have to purchase for the officers. So with that being said, if you have any questions, I'm trying to answer them.
Yes, I have one. I just want to thank you for all the hard work, because we haven't had squealing of the tires in a while, and I go by there a whole lot, Nolan Field, and there's always a cop down there at all times of day and night. So I just want to thank you.
No problem. We have been adding, obviously, we put some extra patrols out there for that. We've asked the officers to maintain a presence up there. You may have noticed, if you're driving by there, those bright yellow gates.
Yes, I have.
Those are installed. The signs were put up there. As you know, parking lots in the city are closed, especially for those areas from sunset to sunrise. And most of our problems that were occurring in that parking lot were occurring overnight. So we worked with the mayor's office and Public Works and the mayor's staff. We were able to put up some sightly barricades, some ways so you can't get in there if the gates are closed. And I expect by the end of this week, we have a plan in place to lock those gates at night, and we'll open them in the morning for people who want to go up there early in the morning. But I think that's going to help resolve the problem even more than having just the officer sitting in the parking lot.
Yeah, and then you'll have a plan for like late night games up there too.
Yeah, so I think what the plan is once the lot is empty, you know, we know when there's games, we know when there's.
All right.
I would hope that we're gonna come up with a plan for the officer to close that sector, and I'm gonna hope that he doesn't lock the gates at 7 o'clock if there's a game going on. But no, I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
I think we put up signs today, Public Works, we ordered
Yes,
that.
you did.
Public Works, put the signs up today. So I think we're on a good path for securing that lot so that we don't have any additional issues and prevent any damage from taking place up there.
Yeah, the signs did go up the day because I happened to pass as they were putting them up. So yes, they did.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions for the chief from the alderman? All right, thanks for coming. Next up, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Joseph DeBacco.
Good evening, President Schuer, aldermen and alderwomen. First off, if I could share some things before I talk about all the help we've been receiving from Kim and Rich. I just wanted to explain a couple things about our school calendar and how it impacts the community. Number one, I met with the mayor, this is last year, and I said to the mayor, I go, I've heard many people on election day, we normally do professional development. We have teachers there, there's cars in the parking lot, and it's hard for people to get in to come vote. So I said to Mayor, I said, Mayor, don't worry about it. I'm going to make it no school day, no professional development, and hopefully make it easier in the parking lots so people can go vote on election day. So I'm hopefully that is something that will help now, but also in the future. I did want to share that there's districts around us that do not have school on Veterans Day. And this is my theory and my thinking on Veterans Day. We do have school on Veterans Day. We bring our veterans in, we honor our veterans, and we once again, we have our students go down to Veteran Memorial Park and we honor our veterans. You know, we do it at elementary school and we do it again. I know a lot of districts, my kids included, without me telling them about Veterans Day, they just have the day off and they don't know how important it is to celebrate our veterans. So I just want to let you know here in Ansonia, those two things, part of our calendar, you know, it's very important to me. I think it's important to our community that our kids are in on school on Veterans Day, and we do bring our veterans in to celebrate them. And coming from an 80-year-old veteran, Mayor Cassetti was there with me. He comes out, shakes both of our hands and says, I've never been celebrated in such a way. So I find it very important. Those are two things I just want to let you know about our calendar. I do want to let you know our first market period is over. So if you hear kids that they say they don't have a report card, guess what? Report cards are coming home. So just be aware, we have parent teacher conferences, and yes, report cards should be on their way home. I also wanted to say a big thank you to Ansonia Fire and Police Department. On October 24th, there was a smell of gas on the hilltop and it was a line being purged. But I want to say thank you. I was able to evacuate our high school population, get them on buses and home into their homes within 25 minutes. To me, that shows that we have an emergency plan. If we have to enact it, it does work. I have to tell you, Chuck Stanky, who is our lead security, he keeps telling me, he goes 25 minutes. He goes, I just never seen it done like that. And I applaud all the efforts, but I do thank Ansonia Fire and Ansonia PD. Talking about saying a big thank you is, yes, due to illnesses right now, our finance we're a little thin in that area. And both Richie and Kim have really stepped up. And Tony, to your comment, yes, there could be some more and increased collaboration and communication through departments over time. I do think there's a lot of trust that's been built over time. And I do see that, as I've said to this, the alderman before, I just see it happening over time, and I see it to be truly a generative process. As long as you don't force it and it's natural and organic, that's what you're seeing happening right now. And it's a testament to the relationships that have been built. And lastly, I want to say a big thank you to Mayor Cassetti. I got a call from David Morgan at team. He asked us to show up to Elizabeth team right there in Derby, right on Elizabeth Street. And when it came to superintendents and elected officials, Mayor Cassetti and myself were the only ones that were there when it comes to superintendents and elected officials. And I think half of anything in life is showing up. Number one, the mayor and I did show up. We represented for Ansonia. I have to tell you, I was a little disappointed for some of the surrounding communities, because I know they're all invited. But once again, David Morgan and team, he came up to me and said, he goes, I could always depend on you guys in Ansonia. You guys always show up. So I just wanted to let our aldermen know that, guess what? We do show up. We're there to support. And that's why things work for us. And so I want to tell the mayor, once again, I don't know if I got to tell him, but a big thank you, because it meant a lot, and having both of us there spoke volumes. I just do also want to add, yes, our football team is doing phenomenal. I do want to see our Naugatuck game. It will be a tough game, but it's a great group of kids, hardworking. And I have to tell you, I did talk to Joe Giannetti, and he wanted to know why we're running the ball. And I'm going to tell you something. If it ain't broke, we're not fixing it, number one. And if you got the Colonel's secret recipe, nobody's changing it. So guess what, Joe Giannetti? Seymour gave us a hell of a run, but our boys, they came off that field and they were not going to lose at any cost. So that's why we run the ball, because we win and it works. So I will more than entertain any question that anyone has, but I do reserve any right. I can't wait to see us play Naugatuck. I know it's going to be a tough game, but we will run it, and it works. And you see that kid, David Cassetti, he runs, and he runs hard. So hopefully you all come to support those kids, but I'm willing to answer any questions.
Any questions for the superintendent from the alderman tonight?
Just no questions about passing the ball. All right.
Yeah.
I will be there for sure.
I know that.
All right. Thank you also for showing up tonight, in addition to for team. All right. So ends the public official session. We'll move on to committee reports. Finance committee.
Make a motion to pay all bills if deemed correct.
Second.
Motion to pay all bills if deemed correct by Mamone, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. Next up, we have the, let's grab my agenda here. We got, we have any other committee reports from the alderman? Any updates? Any? Nope. All right. So we'll move on to municipal reports. You have the vote recommendations in your packet. In the municipal report, do we have a motion to accept the vote recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by, who was that, Adamowski?
Yes, sir.
Second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Let me just get caught up here. It was not on the agenda, and this is a special meeting, so I'm not going to add. I just want to note that the land use report was in your packet. I'll make a note to make sure that that's on the agenda for next month, but I'm also going to note that there was over $42,000 of revenue brought in for the month of October on that report. All right, next up, tax collector's report and the request for refunds. So the tax collector report.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion to accept by Mamone, second by Yauman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. And then the request for refunds in the amount of $3,040.04.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Rivers, second by Mamone, all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries unanimously. Accents and claims, we have two claims, number 1022, 1040 and 1022, 1041.
Motion
Josh, I have a
approved.
question on the first one.
Sure.
Is that for executive session or for regular? I received it for both.
Yeah,
It's on the agenda for both, but we haven't done anything with it yet. This is the first we've seen it. So we normally refer them.
That's what I thought. Okay.
just okay, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Motion to refer to council.
Second.
A motion to refer to council by Yaman and second by, who is that, Cassetti?
Tar.
Bobby.
Second by,
Fine.
by Tar, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, we'll send those to Corporation Council. Communications, we had one. This is from Tashana Gripper, Ansonia resident, 61 Cottage Street. This was in your packet. I'm not going to read it, but the crux of the communication was a request to for a little bit more time to, I believe she was away.
Yeah, I make a motion on that. I already read that.
To basically get a little extension on the time.
Extend, yeah,
All right, motion to to grant the extension.
yes.
All right, motion by Rivers,
Second.
second by Adamowski. Any discussion on this?
The only question I would have is, do we want to set a time frame to revisit this, or is this, we want to leave it up to the discretion of the land use department?
I'm guessing the land use administrator who forwarded it to us will give her
Okay.
the discretion.
Okay.
She sent that to us. That would be my thought.
Yeah,
Works
So
for me.
are we waiving and extending? Is that the
Yeah,
motion here?
Extend.
There wasn't. I don't think, according to this, there's nothing been levied yet. It said the charges could be, and they
Okay.
were asking for just an extension of the time. So I was going to pass this back to Rhonda Perini, who was the one.
Yeah.
Is Rhonda on?
No, that's why I didn't call her.
So there's been nothing imposed as of today on this?
I can't say that, but reading the letter, it was speculative as to what the charges could be. And then it was saying, she says, I just returned and getting things back in order and ask, can I get a week or two? And that was November 6th. Well,
Right.
that's like over a week ago now. It could be,
So I was gonna say, has it been remediated yet?
yeah, we can check.
No,
on
it
it.
has not been. It has not been remediated.
And that was kind of the point of my, do we want to give it till next meeting to give them an opportunity to remediate?
yeah, okay.
End of the
Yeah.
month?
Yeah,
we say end
I'll amend it, yeah. Until the next Board of Aldermen meeting.
Okay, so you're gonna amend your motion to put a time frame to next BOA.
Yes,
So we had a motion in a second. Any other,
December 13th.
Point of discussion. So
so that'll be December, the meeting, was it December, what did you say, Bobby? December 13th?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's more than she's even requesting, so that seems very fair.
can I, Chicago, so this is, I assume some, the grass is extended, it hasn't been cut or whatever, so it's been a bit, it hasn't been cut. If we were to potentially say the end of the month, by the next meeting, we could potentially close the case if it's been remediated. So if we come in next month and there's no action, what happens then? We just take no action and the fees start at that point?
Yeah,
Or the fees retro?
There already are fees on the property. I think there's
There
like
are.
$5,000 worth of fees on this property.
Oh,
John, how many? Sorry, what was the amount?
I think it's $5,000.
Okay.
fees have already been imposed?
The fees are already running, I believe, yes.
Is that, it says $100 a day, is that 50 days it's been?
Yeah, that's not,
Yeah,
Right.
most likely.
well, it was August that she left.
So maybe
To
we
mow
want,
the grass.
maybe
Well,
we,
then,
yeah,
all we're being asked to do, and just to add on to the discussion, is that all we're being asked to do is give her an extension to remediate. So if she remediates and then comes back with a request about a lien, we can deal with that as it comes back at that request.
Right.
She also kind of put it out there that she can afford like 100, but she really can't afford that due to financial hardship. She did put that in her letter.
I think she's stranded.
Yeah,
in
she-
She was
Georgia.
stranded for 2 months.
Yeah, she even
Apparently.
included the car,
Engine.
yeah, car information was in there.
Yeah.
It was pretty detailed as far as why she was gone. I'm okay with whatever. I mean, I'm okay with the end of the month thing where, as Tony mentioned, we could bring it back. We could then have a decision at our meeting, or we can wait and just do it for the 13th.
It's Chicago's motion. I'm okay with as it is. So, you know, the fee, it sounds like the fees are accruing. It just I think a simple remediation, if it gets taken care of, you know, we can do what we have to do.
Right, yeah.
So by the next meeting, December 13th, we'll take that. We'll see this again.
Why don't we just let Rhonda handle it?
Well, because at some
She
point,
doesn't have the power to waive it.
she's going to come back to us. If it's 5,000, it's going to be more than 5,000 when she comes back.
Yeah, it's gotta come to us anyway.
The main goal here is to get it
Really for-
remediated.
Nothing.
Once it gets remediated, and they come back with a request.
Summarized anyways.
Yeah, we want her to remediate the property.
Right.
I think she sent the letter, didn't she? Didn't Rhonda?
No, the woman sent the letter.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah, but-
forwarded. It was forwarded by the land use. It was sent by the resident themselves.
Yeah, the owner sent that letter.
I think the spirit of the program. This is a homeowner. 9 years they've owned the home, so
Yeah.
We want to hurt her.
we want it to be remediated. We
Right.
want them to fix
Right.
it.
First and foremost, if they remediate, then we can deal with the lien issue. And as long as we get an update from land use for the next meeting
Right,
as to where we are.
that's it.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. We'll have an update for December 13th meeting. All in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Mm-mm.
All right, motion carries. Let's see. We have no resignations this month. We have one resolution, which was in your packet. Resolution number 1, City of Ansonia Public Works Waste Project Grant. I'm seeing that we talk about this every month. This is this is merely,
This is everyone's favorite project.
this is essentially the resolution that's required for us to accept the grant money for this program in the amount of $420,500 for the project of the City of Ansonia Public Works Waste Project.
Can we
Sure.
get an explanation as to what the waste project is again, Josh?
Yes, yeah,
Sure.
let me give you. Oh,
I
go ahead.
I can arrange a session for you guys, a
A
private one. for you
2-hour
to go.
session.
How about
No, no.
A
No,
private one
so-
for you to go.
Basically, everyone's getting a year's year's worth of free garbage bags, both your regular garbage bags and these food waste bags. And the program's gonna start early December, and they're starting to roll out information to our residents, and they wanted you to be aware as well. But this resolution is just so that we can accept the grant money and get the
So
project.
you don't have to
going.
do it, right?
They no, you don't have to do it.
Right,
It's just,
okay.
if you do it, it's great. It might reduce our tipping fees. If you don't, so be it. Right? And all of the waste goes in your regular can, in your regular garbage.
All right, I make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Rivers and a second by Tar to accept this resolution to authorize the resolution as written.
A quick comment here,
Discussion?
Josh, on the succinct way in which that was described during this meeting. I'd just like to thank Sheila and tip my cap.
Hey, anyone who laughed at Joe's initial comment, and that includes Adamowski, gets a private session.
We get a private Zoom.
Oh, with the woman, she'll be glad to come back.
No,
See, now, Bobby, you have to attend too.
Yeah,
yeah, Bobby.
only if you come, Joe.
Everyone's required to go except the president. The He doesn't have to. All right.
Sometimes it's hard supporting the environment.
Yeah, it's a good program. I hope. All right. So did we vote on that? Can't remember.
Yes.
All right. So we're
No, we
Did we-
didn't vote. We had a
we didn't
motion
vote.
and a second. We
Motion
didn't vote.
second.
Oh, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Hopefully the
Cash the check.
last time we ever
Thank you.
that. And we're just gonna get bags. Now we're
Do we
good.
get monthly updates?
Yeah.
Yes.
You
That's what
will.
I'm gonna Give you monthly updates.
Actually,
Yep.
Joe, I'm gonna ensure that you get
Yes, it's a new committee and Joe is the head of it.
Joe is the chair.
Yeah,
Joe is
just what I need.
under the committee reports. I'd like to have Joe be the waste committee chair. He can give us an update every month.
Excellent.
All right, moving on. Under appointments, you got two separate letters, one on November 9th and one on November 10th with appointments. The November 9th was one appointment to the Upper House Commission, a
Bless you.
2-year term.
Thank you.
Patrick Henry of 16 Harris Road to a term of 11/31/2024 expiration.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Cassetti, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Congrats and thanks for volunteering. Next up is the November 10th communication from the mayor. This was to appoint a ward boundaries commission, which I'm under the impression is a state requirement. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nominees. What I'd like to do is read all the names with the addresses and then go back individually and just vote by name. And if anyone wants to abstain, if you're on there and you want to abstain, whatever, we can do that. But so the nominees, actually, we could just do them individually. Joseph Yauman of 183 Wakely Ave.
Motion, absolutely.
Second.
Motion
Third.
by Rivers, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I will
Abstention?
abstain.
One abstention, Yauman. All right. Gary Farrar of 14 Kathy Lane.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Yauman, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. Bobby Tarr of 30 La Rovera Terrace.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Yauman, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait,
Abstention?
Yep.
Can I ask
One
Can I have a-
abstention. Tarr?
a question?
Yep.
The party affiliation there, Bobby,
That's what I have that on my list right here. Yeah, can we just change the party affiliation to unaffiliated?
Yep. Bobby Tarr, you.
no.
Next up, so one abstention on that, Tar. Chicago Rivers, 19 Tomlinson Street.
Motion.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Yauman, second by, who's that, Tar? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Me, Chicago. Wow, I didn't even know I was on the list.
One abstention, Rivers.
Congratulations, partner.
Next up, Ralphine Ford, 222.5 North State Street.
Motion.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Yauman, second by Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries. Next, Gary Cassetti of 102 Root Avenue.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
By Mamone, second by Rivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. And last one, Elizabeth Lynch, 63 Franklin Street.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Yauman, second Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries. Thank you all. Assuming that the mayor will call the first meeting of that, in which case you guys will figure out what you're doing and appoint leadership and whatnot. All right, so moving on.
Josh, can I just ask a question on this? Is the purpose of this commission to equalize the number of voters in each ward as opposed to changing the number of wards?
Yeah, there's no, Alderman Adamowski, there's no, this is not a charter revision commission to change the number of wards. So this group would presumably hear data from the registrar's office about the number of voters registered in each ward and make a determination as to whether or not there needs to be any alterations to balance things out.
So the purpose would be to balance the number of is it the number of residents or the number of registered voters?
It's really registered voters. However, I think the registrar's office will take you through a couple different approaches in evaluating what could be done and what might need to be done.
Thank you.
So is it safe to assume the registrar of voters will be at this meeting, the first meeting, or?
I would strongly advise getting them involved from the very beginning, as their data would be crucial in terms of doing something or not doing something. It's and you know, you have your window of time to open it up, I believe every I think it's every 4 years. So this was the prescribed window to open this up and to evaluate whether or not any change has to be made.
All right.
This is Beth. It's actually based on residences, not voters.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So congrats and good luck to the lucky appointees.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for your service.
Yes.
All right. Next up, we have one nominee for Key to the City. This is John Egan. And those of you who don't know, John Egan is a longtime crossing guard in the North End. I think over 15 years. He's been a faithful crossing guard, always looking out for the safety of our residents and particularly the children. And I know that the mayor and his staff are proud to call him a friend, and he's known particularly in I'm trying to think what street, what corner that is. Somebody help me.
Fourth and North Main.
North
The
Main.
North Main, and so I'm sure a lot of you know him as well. So he's the awardee for Key to the City, and we'll be giving him his key soon. So congrats.
Never misses a day, Josh.
Yep. Congrats to John Egan, the crossing guard. All right, next up we have nothing. What's that? Oh, next up we have we have nothing under ordinance actually, so nothing there. New business, there are 3 items, 2 number 2s, strangely. I guess that's just a numbering issue. But the first one, I'm going to defer to Kurt and John. This is listed as transfer station and sale of WPCA. I don't know who wants to handle that.
John will lead and I'll just provide color.
Okay.
So I'll just go ahead and provide a general explanation of why these items are on the agenda. The city is looking to explore options with respect to both of the sites, the WPCA and the transfer station. The question is there any solution that might involve an outside party operating these facilities? Obviously, that opens a can of worms and a lot of questions, but we believe that we owe it to the city and the residents to at least explore possibilities. And we want to do this in absolutely the most transparent way possible. And so we felt rather than beginning a discussion in executive session or behind closed doors, we would confront it directly. I think in either case, if the Board of Aldermen wanted to go forward exploring options, you're talking about a bidding process. You're talking about putting out either a bid or an RFP to solicit proposals, so we can fairly bring some proposal for each site before the Board of Aldermen, and to determine whether or not there is another way, a better way of doing things. Let me say for the WPCA, that's something that many towns in Connecticut have explored. Some have gone ahead and made changes with outside companies. Some have not. And I think from the city's perspective, even from the get-go, without having a single proposal on the table, we know that there are two very important factors that would have to be made before the mayor's office would ever recommend a change. And number one, it would be a commitment to our ratepayers, because the last thing we'd want to do is outsource WPCA and see a spike in the rates. So there would have to be some negotiated amount or a schedule of fee increases or basically a fee freeze for this to happen. And number two, there would have to be a commitment towards our employees. The last thing we're going to do is do something that puts the men and women that have been putting so much time, effort, planning, and work into the WPCA out on a limb. And all these things, all these items can be negotiated, and we certainly would never pursue a deal that would leave either our ratepayers or our employees in the lurch. And in terms of the transfer station, very much the same. We need the transfer station to work for our residents. It's a very important part of the city. Our residents rely on that service, and we're never going to put them in a situation where that is not an affordable option. And also, of course, we would have plans for our employees. We're not looking to put anyone in the unemployment line with the WPCA or the transfer station. That's not what this is about. This is exploring opportunities for efficiency, better ways of doing things to increase the quality of our services. So with that being said, there's no real action that we're looking for. It's certainly not decision-making time. I would actually take things slow and recommend that the city be allowed to make proposals to planning and zoning. We know that an 824 referral under Connecticut General Statutes 8-24 is required for any selling or leasing of city property. And we want to get that recommendation from planning and zoning on both WPCA and the transfer station before we went anywhere else with the conversation. But I can tell you that if this board did want to move forward after those referrals were complete, certainly we'd be talking about putting together a request for proposals, an RFP or even an RFQ to find viable entities, viable bidders that would be able to take on the WPCA and the transfer station. And that would only be the very beginning of the process.
And if I could just add just a little color additionally on the transfer station. We're to the point now where we're going to need to make some larger capital investments down there, particularly with the scale and a few other things. So I think now would be the best time to actually explore this to see if it's possible. And then once we've made a determination, at that point, we can determine how we would move forward with these capital needs. If you're looking at a new scale, you could be looking anywhere between 60 and 100,000. So it would certainly be worthwhile for us to explore at this point. And to John's point, if we were to do something with this, the 3 employees that work at the transfer station could very easily be absorbed right back into the public works operation, and would be actually very beneficial to us to have the additional manpower.
And I just want to point out that you're not, with respect to the transfer station, you would be going out to bid for the operation of the transfer station, not for the sale of the transfer station, be the operation. And I think, the mayor has always pushed regionalization. We've made some progress, not as much as we'd hoped to with our neighboring towns and cities, but we really have to look at ways to be able to afford city services and not put the burden on the taxpayers, and try to look for creative solutions. So yeah, we would be looking to go out to bid for the transfer station, in particular for the operation of the transfer station.
I just, Kurt, in that proposal that comes back, I think I'd like to see, cost benefit analysis. Of course, you're talking a $60,000 scale, but you're also talking to keep the current employees that are there as, as an expense to the city. And we're going to look to outsource this at an additional cost. So, that cost to source it out, plus these, if these guys put the new equipment in there, I guess overall, what does that cost structure look like? If it's a $60,000 scale versus a, $200,000 a year operation,
Right.
Doesn't
Well,
make sense.
We wouldn't
Yeah,
be paying somebody to, they would, they would generate their own revenue
yeah,
by operating.
yeah.
By
To
charging
Sheila's
us.
point, yeah, to Sheila's point, all
Yeah.
that'll be broken down into an analysis that we would provide to the board to see if it makes sense or not. But the thing you want to keep in mind too is service to our residents, and we're restricted due to union contracts and things like that in the ability to provide some services. So doing something like this could provide the transfer station the opportunity to be open from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays, maybe even on Sundays, different things like that. So cost comes into it, but also what becomes available for services to our residents as well. But we'll break all of that down and have a full analysis for you guys when the time comes.
Thanks.
All
Can
right.
we address the WPCA? I know the two towns that they talked about regionalization at one point in time, both of them have already said no to having their services bought out. And I mean, to be honest, ours is the better system, so they would benefit off of our service. Why would we want to even do that?
Well, that's just it, right? We don't know why we would want to do that. We would like to solicit proposals to see if one would make sense for us. Certainly, there's been chatter about surrounding communities going out. We really have not been privy to the details of what's been going on. We certainly believe that if other communities were going in that direction, there could be an opportunity for some synergy and maybe even more value for our plant, which, yes, is a superior plant. And we're not just saying that, we truly believe that we do have a
Right.
superior facility, and we need to value it that way as well. We understand that if it wasn't good enough for another city to sell, right, then it's likely not going to be good enough for us. We're not in a situation, which is very lucky for us, where we need to sell or need to lease or need to outsource. Absolutely not. However, we think it just wouldn't be we wouldn't be doing the residents a service if we didn't at least explore it and see what we could come to the table. What sort of proposal could possibly come to the table. What value an outside entity would place on it. But we're not going to undersell. We're not going to undervalue our own resource, and we're not in a position where we need to. But we do want to keep on exploring, keep on looking for options, just making sure that we're doing everything in our power to best leverage our assets.
Yeah, I'm real curious about the transfer station, because if they're there to make money, then all the fees that will be going into effect in December, I'm sure that all of them will change. So I'm curious to see it all.
We'd have
And those
to
are, in
agree
Chicago
to.
brings up a good point. Any of these deals, whether it be, and again, we're talking very theoretically, but
Right.
once we were to start any negotiation, I would have in my mind two big points to press, and I'm sure you would as well. Number one, are our employees being taken care of? And number two, what's going on with the fees for either one? And I would want to see, as part of any agreement, any successful agreement, that there be basically a course for those fees to be frozen, held at a certain level for a certain period of time, because we're not going to essentially sell an asset and then pass on a spike in a fee, whether it be WPCA or the transfer station, immediately to our residents. We're just not going to do that. That's not what the mayor's office would ever recommend. And I know this board would stand up against that as well. And those things could certainly be negotiated. It often affects the overall bottom line, but it would have to be there. Again, we're just not going to dump an asset that have that cost now be turned over to the residents. That being said, going in this direction commits us to nothing. Sending out an RFP doesn't commit us to anything. Like always, it's a very simple matter to reject any proposals if they don't work for us. Just allows us to see what's out there, because we've heard positive stories and we've heard negative stories. And now's the time, I think, to actually see what the value of what we have is worth on the market, and what potential paths forward there might be.
I think that's a very fair point, John. While I'm highly skeptical with what contracts would look like with either one of those. I think it's important to have as much information as we can to make that judgment. So
I would second that notion. I think that without knowing the results of the study and analysis, I think we appreciate the initiative of the staff to study this and other areas of operation.
yeah, I mean, I'll just add that, you know, there was that regional study done with regards to the WPCA. I've looked through it. I don't, from what was presented there, we're in the best position of any community in the valley.
Yeah.
The other communities would benefit
Yes.
from us. So
We-
any lease or sale of our facilities would likely have to be in conjunction with another community, neighboring communities. So I'm skeptical that would get done from that perspective. But then again, at the same time, I think getting more information is important. So I'd be in
Agree.
favor of an 824 and kind of see where we go from there.
All right, so if I read this correctly, then just to be safe on the safe side, we should get an 824 for the transfer station and a separate 824 for WPCA and just see how they come back, correct, John?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the logical beginning is to simply send this over to planning and zoning and get their opinion.
Okay,
So
so
moved.
we have a request, let's do these separately, a request to for an 824 referral for the transfer station.
So moved.
Second,
Seti, second by, who was that, Adamowski?
yes.
Second by Adamowski, all in favor?
Right.
Right.
I,
Opposed?
Uh,
Any abstentions? All right, and then a second request for a 824 P and Z referral for the WPCA.
So moved.
Cassetti,
second,
second by Adamowski, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I,
Opposed? Any
abstain.
One abstention, Rivers. Okay, so both of those will get pushed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And we'll see what happens from there. All right, thanks. Good discussion on that. Number 3 or number
Two.
2, I suppose, on the agenda.
Pop
Because-
Warner.
yeah, Pop Warner. This was in your packet. There's a request for reimbursement for the purchase of the football helmets. Mr. Keith Maynard was at our last meeting, I believe it was.
Yep.
He spoke to this, and then it's included in the packet. I think it was, what was it?
I make a motion on that.
1,036.91.
Motion to approve by Rivers. Do we have a
Second.
second? Second by Yaman. Any discussion?
Josh, the only discussion I have is wondering why this is coming to us. If it was budgeted in the budget we approved, and this seems like such a minor administrative expenditure item.
We set it up in the general line item, Steve, that all of the disbursements had to come back to the board. Rather than parsing them out individually, we put them into a general bucket, and all requests have to come back to the board for approval.
And there was a reason for that, I'm assuming.
There
Yes,
was.
Yes.
absolutely.
What was it?
Anything. for
Parks and Rec.
recreation.
Yeah, this is one of the things we decided, instead of having individual dollar amounts for different groups, that we would have a larger pool of money controlled by the aldermen. And we would let any of the sports groups apply for this money. And then that's where this comes from. So Pop Warner didn't specifically ask for a set dollar amount similar to what soccer did. They asked for $2,000 a season. Pop Warner's come back and asked for assistance with funding with the helmets. So that gives this board the ability to decide how much each group would get, and also gives you the ability to ask for financials, understand true need of each of these organizations. Obviously, some organizations need more money than others.
Okay,
So
I
that was
just don't,
kind of-
I don't think we're in an expert position to do that, and I hope this might be taken over by the administration at some point.
Well, Steve, I collect the information. I push back on the boards, or in the groups. I do that for you. and then push the recommendations forward to you that I think are worthy of funding.
I think that's okay. Are we
At least in
vote?
the past of this, that's how we set it up, so.
Yeah, and they will be coming back for
Helmets,
yeah,
These are the helmets.
yeah,
cracked
But they-
helmets?
but they will be,
These are the helmets.
but they
Can I-
will be coming back for more for uniforms and things like that, because normally what they get per year, I think it was $5,000, I think it was. So.
Can I just ask one question, Kurt, along the same lines, is that why does this take a different track from everything else going through boat first? Shouldn't this be recommended to boat, and then be one of our boat approvals? Because it seems like these are coming to us separately.
No, because this is your line that you control. So essentially you're signing off on the quote unquote PO.
Yeah,
So you're
Okay.
approving it.
Yep.
So you're
Okay.
the approving authority.
right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Already set up.
Yeah, you guys got what you wanted, and now we're complaining
Yep.
about.
I'm not complaining about it.
I'm not either.
I know how it
I
was
was
set
just
up.
asking the question about boat as to whether.
This is working as designed.
All
That's
right,
right.
we have a motion, we have a second, we had some sweet discussion. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
I have
Rock and roll.
Point of discussion, hold on. Just Kurt, just to confirm, there's funds in that line still to pay this out.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good. Go ahead, Josh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention, Adamowski. Motion carries. All right. Okay, so
Now,
this
now
next
I'd,
one's a trick. This next one's a trick. So
now I'd
no,
like to give a presentation on the food waste program.
food and energy
Denied.
program
Let's start again.
here.
Denied.
Bring up the slideshow.
This is just to bring it back full circle and get to discuss it again at
Tie in
nauseam.
with solar while we're at it.
Chicago, make your motion.
This is not necessary. We can
Get a green bag and a red bag.
no,
I
we-
Everyone.
make a motion to go into executive.
Second.
Wait a
motion by
minute.
Rivers, second by Tar to go to executive session.
Is
we have-
that before or after the live demonstration of the recycling system?
But which
Green
color bag
and
do I
orange
use?
bag. I'm sorry.
Being
orange
held
bag.
hostage.
John gonna put the bag over his head.
I can continue this.
5
in
more minutes of
executive
this and maybe,
session.
you never know.
All right, so we have 3 items. The usual suspects are invited to executive session. So, John, can you?
There it is.
One more time.
Motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Motion to come out of executive session by Mamone, second by Rivers, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So we're back. We had basically 2 items from executive session. First one, claim number 1022-1040.
Motion to take.
Second.
What's the motion? Everyone was talking at the same time.
Motion to deny by Rivers.
Yes.
Motion to deny by Rivers. Do we have a second?
Yep.
Who?
Tony.
Me. R.
Oh,
Otar. Okay.
second by Tar.
It's
All in
like a
favor?
bloopers video right now.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. And then the second one were the same item, 2 different numbers, claims.
Motion to deny both claims.
Okay, motion to deny both claims by Rivers and
Second.
that's numbers 2 and 3. And who's the second on that?
Mamone.
Mamone. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
So adjourned by Rivers, second by Tar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
So remember, there's 2 bags.